One live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Good morning, or I should say good afternoon or good evening, whenever anybody's watching this or wherever they are. So,
Yeah,
and
well,
just
good afternoon. Good afternoon.
good afternoon. And just so we're clear today, we have Mr. David with us, who is drinking an imaginary scotch. Morton's drinking,
No,
I think, James.
it's a real scotch. You can see it behind me.
I can
Yeah,
see it.
that one.
You're just not drinking it.
It's there.
Morton has
No.
his Jameson in his glass. He's got his electronic cigar. I have chosen a Davidoff Churchill late in the hour cigar, which is a beauty. Once we hear you guys want to hear more about cigars and scotch, we'll do about 10 minutes in the beginning of the show. And I also have my Macallan 18. So cheers to everybody. And today's topic is going to be climate change and global warming. And just for those people it's going to be a cool topic. And the interesting thing about it is it's 7 o'clock in the morning where I am. So this is a good way to start the day with scotch and cigars. So, and to my cardiologist, I'm going to outlive you. So cheers.
Yeah, well, just a normal breakfast for you, Stephen, I think.
I know, but I mean, I was trying to make it like this is a special thing, but no, that is very true. This is how I start my day every day. So,
Yeah.
so. And people say
I thought for the show I'd transport myself to Loch in Scotland. So because I went to my favourite brewery, or distillery, I should say, called Scotch Mist. And as you can see, I'm actually a connoisseur of Scotch Mist. So
that's very nice. Maybe they should sponsor the show.
Yeah, they should indeed. Yeah,
David, I see something moving behind you.
Yes, in the loch,
the Loch Ness thing.
Yeah,
Animal.
yeah. Well, I didn't want to start off this with a conspiracy, but it's quite possibly Nessie was there when the photograph was taken. But that just could be Scotch Mist, couldn't it? Who knows?
There you go.
I just read that a researcher was there for 24 years living in a tent, and he saw nothing. But maybe he was blind. I don't know.
Maybe he was living on the loch. Maybe he should have had the tent facing the loch. That could have been it too.
There's another guy who's I think he watches it intermittently. I think he's in Highlands, and he has it because there's a live feed onto the loch. And I think about a week ago, 10 days ago, it actually have some of the first new images of what they think is the Loch Ness Monster. Quite possible because the loch is incredibly deep. I'm not saying that it's like it's a monster falling out of the sky monster, but there's I think it's quite conceivable because of the depth of the loch that there are things down there that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
But if it's only one of them, it will die out.
As I understand, there are entrances underwater in and out of the loch because it has a slight tidal thing. So they probably come from Norway anyway. They just go to Scotland.
Always Norway.
They just go to Scotland for a holiday, I think.
The Vikings brought them.
But the story behind, since we'll get to all the other stuff later, but the story behind the Loch Ness Monster is, I want to say it was in the 13th or 14th century, a friar, not from the Friars Club in New York, but a friar, actually the monster came, a fish friar, the monster supposedly came onto the shore, and the friar banished him to the loch for like all eternity. And I forget, I want to say it's in the 13th or 14th century. If you know, you can put the comments below. And I think that's like the first sighting that people were talking about. And I think that's like the first part of the loch, the story of the Loch Ness Monster, if you will. So I thought that was very interesting. I read that and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. But then again, it was the 13th, 14th century. They were probably high on God knows what. So they don't even know what they saw. It could have been
they were probably high on God. That's the thing, All
That's the
those
worst.
friars, they're, you know, when they went out there genetically modifying fruit and vegetables, they were trying to fry Nessie. But,
Probably.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, before we get on
that's
to
why
climate, go ahead, David.
that's why they got the name, you know, fryer. You know, because they were probably fish fryers.
Your connections to things astound me. So before we get on to climate change, since we're talking about the Loch Ness Monster, we might as well just touch on the hot subject of the week that's been in all the newspapers, because climate change has been around forever and nobody believes it. But the hot subject of this week is all about UFOs, and our U.S. Congress is now trying to do a full disclosure where we can talk about it. And our Pentagon in 2019 said they had off-world vehicles. So I thought that was very interesting. And now you have astronauts saying what they've seen and whatnot. So what do you think, David and Morten?
So let Morten say his bit. But
no, it's okay. You first. You have the.
Well, it just seems. I mean, the general. I mean, I was born not very far away from Rendlesham Forest in the UK, where they had this very famous encounter. I've been in Rendlesham Forest on many occasions, and you know, it's a beautiful place to go up near Thetford, well worth the journey. But the general census of opinion just seems to be, certainly in Europe, is, you know, the people I talk to as well, it's a very American thing.
Really?
You know? Why are the UFOs only in America?
But that's not true. If you guys watch the I think it's called Real UFOs on YouTube, they have sightings all over the world, and a lot of it is right around Amsterdam, I think, because everybody's high. But there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things going on.
They're just pink elephants.
Okay, yeah, when I get drunk, pink elephants see me. I know, but I'm just saying, on the UFO sighting, it's a global thing. They have UFO sightings in China, in Brazil, and of course North America, in Europe.
Why is it that the Americans are always so up? They always want it to happen. You know, it's almost as if they want to claim it. Oh, all the UFOs, they all go to. They only want Americans. You know,
if you go back and you start looking at like the Vatican paintings from the 15th century, they had like spaceships in them. If you go back to the ancient Sumerian texts, they talk about the gods and where they came from.
But the difference is, because they didn't have Fox News, so you know.
Well, that's true. But here's what's really interesting to me on the UFO subject. If you look at the UFOs and the military industrial complex, and if you're a government, or you're, you know, Raytheon or Lockheed or somebody, and we give you technology or UFO, look at how far advanced you'd be. A guy named Corso wrote a book. I read it in the 80s when I was just a wee lad. And he talked about all the technology we got from the Roswell crash, like, you know, all the fiber optics and night vision and all this other things. So, and then if you go to the Sumerian text that talks about how we came to be, yeah, I think there's some merit to it, because there have been UFOs since the beginning of time. Every culture and every history talks about it. So I personally say, yes, they're here. We've invited a senator on this show to come talk, and maybe he'll say yes. And we've also invited a guy named Coltree, who's a book author, who just wrote the book about the UFO that's supposedly so big that they had to build an underground base under a landmark because they can't move it. So we've asked these other people to come on the show because they're experts, not just our cursory knowledge. But I think UFOs are real.
But Stephen, why is it that they are not in Norway? Maybe it's too cold for them. I don't know. But it's always when I've been reading about the UFOs, it's the Nevada area.
Well, no, that's 1940 something. If you, like I said, if you stay up to date with all the news today, they're global. Norway has sightings constantly. All of Europe does, and there's videos of them, and there's this and there's. So I think what ends up happening is that because in America, for lack of a better term, it started with us, but it really didn't. Because if you go back to the 1800s, there was a German publication that talked about a big UFO fight over their city. And this was back in the, like, I want to say either 16 or 1700s, maybe the 1800s. And they had pictures, they drew pictures of it. So they've been around. I think what ended up happening is and now they're saying in Italy there was a crash in 1937 that they recovered. So if then we pop forward to America, I think America was the first country to say, hey, we have one, and then say, no, we don't have one, because they got scared for what would happen to the human race, right? So I think there's a lot of cloak of secrecies. An ex-Israeli defense minister said, of course there's UFOs, and we have them, and we're in contact, yada, yada, yada. That came out a year ago. The defense minister of Canada said, of course we have UFOs, and wants more disclosure. If I'm not mistaken, your Norway defense minister said the same thing. So
Wow.
I think there's a lot of stuff. I'm always been fascinated by it, because I just think the technology, and it goes to like the wormhole hypothesis, and it goes to time travel hypothesis and whatnot. And then there was an article, I think in one of the magazines for Popular Science, was saying that scientists now think they figured out how you can do time travel. And I'm like, okay. So my question is, did we figure it out, or do we have technology that figured it out? So I think it all kind of ties together, and it's not so much science fiction anymore. The problem is in 500 years, when everybody finds out it's true, we won't be here. So unless we time travel. Yeah.
Stephen, there's one vital question I ask myself, because I'm open for almost everything. Well, yeah, I'm very open. But nowadays, when we have at least 2 cameras with us all the time, why the Black Widow? Why don't we have this on?
We do. Oh no, we do. There are tons.
Yeah, but I'm on Photoshop myself. I've been there since the first first one. I can make it seem very, but no one, it's a mystic thing, because if an ordinary guy in Germany take a photo, and just you can see it's not been manipulated, because on the photo, if it's been photoshopped or not. You can read it by the codes. So why don't we see anything more?
Well, we do, and here's a in 1976 there was a Japanese airliner flying from, if I'm not mistaken, Los Angeles to Japan. And not only do they have pictures, and it's been on television many times, but they have radar of this thing that's the size of like 5 football fields flying around a 747. So I think the evidence is there. I think what's happening now, and people now with their phones, they point it up, and what will end up happening is like you'll see 57 videos now of the same object, but by 57 different people. So if they're all photoshopping it or AIing it, that's a big conspiracy. So I think it's here. I think what the governments were afraid of, and someone I talked to many years ago told me, he said the governments were always afraid, and the Vatican, is that once you find out that, if you will, the UFOs are your gods, if you will, with a little g, then you're not a Norwegian, you're not whatever David is, a British person, or Netherlands or whatever. Well, I don't know, because he lives in 14 countries. Or you're not an American citizen. What you become is an earthling. And once you become an earthling, governments can't control you. And when they can't control you, then they can't put fear in you anymore. They can't be like, the church can't say to you, you're going to go to hell. There is no hell, right? The CIA did a report, and it was called the Gateway Project, where they went to this thing called the Absolute. This is a whole big thing about it. But once you maybe have a better understanding of it, what ends up happening then is you're like, oh, okay, so you don't really die, so to speak, right? You do X, Y, or Z, and you do this and you do that. And because of it, then the church has no power, right? It's like, I can't be the guy with the pointy, funny hat and the cute shoes telling you that if you don't do something or give me money, you're going to go to hell, because then there is no hell, right? So it becomes a whole different mentality.
Is that not just a fundamental desire that we all want to believe that there is something larger than ourselves? So it makes us feel less lonely in the world around us. And so therefore, the UFOs have taken the place of the church, because the church has lost all sorts of moral compasses, even if it had one to start off with.
Right. Yeah. I would have said yes if we've never had a UFO sighting until yesterday. But because they've been here since antiquity and probably before, I would say no. I think they're here. I think the Sumerian text is the closest to reality we have. And I think the people that don't know or don't read.
What are we then? What are we then? Just an experiment? Is that the way? Is that the way?
Pretty much. I truly, basically, yeah.
What Douglas Adams, was portraying in the Hitchhiker's Guide, that the mice were the fifth dimensional
running the world,
running the universe. And we were just an experiment.
According to the Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki came and they created us. So yes, for all intents and purposes, we are nothing more than a sixth grader's.
So what are they doing then? Are they just keep coming back just to have a look to see whether or not the kettle's boiling or not? I mean, that doesn't make sense. You're either involved. I mean, or you're not. I mean, I'm not poo-poo. I'm quite open-minded about it, because look up into the evening sky. I mean, not so much in Europe, not so much where I'm living here, which is surrounded by light pollution. Holland is lit up. You can see Holland from any place on the planet, I think. But when you go to, when I traveled, I went east, and the less light, and then you look up in the evening sky, it's absolutely peppered with suns
stuff
and stuff. And you think, well, I think statistically speaking, there must be one or two Goldilocks planets in all of that lot.
I just read that there are more stars up there than there are sandcorns on the earth, and included all beaches and of course
I can believe that.
The desert. So that there's life out there, of course. Why only us? But why don't they come down and speak with us?
I think they have. I actually think they have. If you look at like the TikTok video that came out a few years ago, if you read, all these guys in the military now are talking about all their experiences.
Must be rude if it's on TikTok.
No. Stop. You're not listening. Not on TikTok. There's a TikTok, what they call the TikTok UFO.
Oh,
it's different than being on TikTok.
Yeah. The TikTok.
Right.
The TikTok.
Yeah, whatever. It's close enough. You know what? 6 more scotches, and this will be a great show.
I mean, you can eat a Tic Tac. I don't know if you can.
I used that, but my point is though, I think it's out there. I think the government's realizing now because of our phones, and to your point, Morten, you can take a picture or you can take a video of it. You can't hide it anymore because things are just happening, and it's literally one day, whether they're hostile or they're not hostile, is not going to be material. It's going to be boom. Loeb, the scientist from Harvard, he says he's found, from the ocean floor alien stuff. He said the Obanubi, whatever that went through our solar system, was nothing more than an intergalactic probe. So because of the movement, right? Because our meteors or whatever move a specific way. This one stopped. It started. It did. So it had intelligent control. So I think there's things. I go back to my original thing. I think the governments were scared, especially in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, because we just got out of a world war. People were hysterical. 1954, there were 7 or 8 flying UFOs that went around our White House, and there's photographs of it. There's video, or the old-fashioned video film of it. It's on the radar, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" And then they just try to quiet it down, and that's it.
But don't you have to quiet down? Because, as an economic, the world, the shares, the stock market, everything would it would influence a lot on the daily life.
It already does. The military-industrial complex. Let's say if there's a crashed craft from wherever, and I'm Raytheon or I'm Bell Labs or whoever I may be, I'm reverse engineering it. Like I said, the guy named Corso wrote a book about how they divvied up all the technology from fiber optics to night vision to this, and so if I'm the government, I'm like, listen, you work on all these black projects for us, right? I want you to do this, and then we're going to bring it out. So I think it does already have an effect on the economics of the planet. I think what's happening now, because when I was a kid, people talked about it. There's Project Blue Book, there's a television series. I read all the books on UFO. Now with the phones, I just hold it up to the night sky. It's like when people now have their telescopes and a camera focused to the sun, and they see these objects flying around the sun like they're draining plasma from the sun. It's fascinating. So I'm like, okay, and you can't, and NASA tries to explain it. Oh, it's this, it's that. Yeah, but when 35 cameras from different people around the world get the same image, it's not a problem with your camera. So, you know, before it was, oh, it's swamp gas, it's a flock of birds. They can't do that anymore because people back then were sure that we trust the government. I think today people don't trust the government. They think our governments in general are stupid, and they think we get lied to. And I think that's an issue, and I think that's what's bringing UFOs to the forefront.
But does anybody care? I mean, if it got splashed tomorrow, if it got splashed tomorrow on the news, you know, people would just go, oh, okay, and
they've
just
already
carry
splashed
on doing
it
what
on
they
the
were
news,
doing.
right? But they've splashed it on the news, and people don't care.
People don't care.
But see, that's what the government needed. But that's what you need as a government. I need you not to care. So when the big mothership is above us and you look at it, you're like, oh, cool. And half the population will be like, that's awesome. That's great. The other half will be like, yeah, nice. What are we having for dinner? And if I as a government, and I as a government, then I'm like, perfect. Because now, you know, and the church and whatever.
Well, here's a good segue for you then. Okay. So all those scientists that know that really there are UFOs and aliens, they're all being kept quiet with the billions and billions and billions of dollars and euros that has been pumped into the fact that of you know, global warming. You know, you just keep yourself busy with global warming, and don't worry about the UFO stuff, guys. Here, you can have a grant for this. You can have a grant for that. The craziest thing I read yesterday was there's a Dutch company that have just raised, God knows, like 5 million euros or whatever. They're going to go to Antarctica, and they're going to to the Arctic Circle, and they're going to start pumping water onto it to make the ice thicker.
How are you going to deal with global warming? Everything is getting hotter. It keeps melting.
Well, it doesn't make any difference if you've got a huge chunk of money that somebody's willing to give you to go and pump water onto the ice cap to keep the ice up. But, you know, you're a happy bunny, aren't you? It pays your mortgage.
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying. So let's do this. I believe that yes, we have global warming. I think I read the article a couple of weeks ago that we've already passed that 1.5 Celsius. So like we're in big trouble. And this is the highest record of heat ever. We are.
Well, so say the experts.
We are. Yeah, we are in trouble. But this Earth has been warming and cooling since its existence.
Yeah, right.
We've had all these periods before. It's just like I said, there's now so much money available to climate activists. You know, I need the money for research for this, I need the money for research for that. And all you get when the research is finished, right? The only thing they say is it's slightly warmer than it should be. Really?
2 degrees, 1.8 or whatever. Right. But I was in Greece on a holiday, just came back. And I was visiting, you know, we have 45 degrees the day before we went home. And so
wait, let me interrupt. 45 degrees for you people watching. He actually means Celsius. So you people in America, that's 120 Fahrenheit. There you go.
Fahrenheit, Mr. Fahrenheit. I like him.
Right. I have to do the conversion. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was speaking. I was in the barber shop, as you can see, and there was an old guy there, and a lot of old guys. I picked the old barber. So because he knew his way with the knife, you know. Right. But there were people there saying to me they have kept records in this lovely island for over 100 years over the temperatures. And it happens, 45 degrees are popping up like every 50 years or something like that. But now, if you see on a weather forecast on TV, everything is red, it's blue, it's it's a way to scare people to death.
But I don't know if they're scaring them to death when you have, like, Glacier National Park. When I lived in Montana, I went to Glacier National Park, and it was glaciers. A friend of mine just went there and sent me a picture. It looks like the Rocky Mountains in the summertime now. There's no more glacier. There's no more. So there is global warming.
I'm not disputing there's global warming, and I'm not disputing in any way, shape, or form that the shaved monkeys that we all are have contributed towards, heating this place up by chucking all the crap into the air. I mean, come and live in Holland. If it's not the heat coming from all the greenhouses have got here, then it's coming from the Rhine Valley. So I can see all of that, but really.
So you don't think there's global? Let me ask you: do you believe in global warming or climate change, like the Greta chick who we invited on our show and never came, Greta Thunberg or whatever her name is, or do you not believe in global warming? I guess that's the real question.
No, like I say, I'm in between. I'm not that. I consider myself intelligent enough to understand that the planet is warming up. I also think that we have contributed towards it, but this is just another fear thing we have to live with. In the 1960s, it was all about nuclear, being nuked.
Right.
But of course, I know I'll always be safe from that because I was told as a 5-year-old, just, when the alarm goes off, just sit under the table, everything's cool. So
I remember that. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, and government, and as we touched on earlier on, what governments like more than anything is fear.
Of course.
So it's now like, oh, be careful. It's all hot.
No. And now we don't have a pandemic. We have to have other things. We do have a pandemic, but I think there's some master brains behind this that are, and I do also believe we have climate change, and it's also influenced by us people. Because as David says, we are just throwing everything on pipes up in the air. But anyway, what they are doing, I read now in Norway that there was a person who just had his trial period on work, and they found out that he was driving a diesel car, and he lost his job. Come on. Because he should have driven electric car. But God damn it, we don't have money for electric cars, all of us. And also we have to, and the power is also raising up. And, I think this is a control mechanism again from the guys around the round table somewhere, with a lot of people who want to, and they need to spread fear. What would North Korea be without fear?
Well, that's because that's just you live under a dictatorship. That's a little different.
Or Russia.
Well, look at it this way, and I'm tongue in cheek here. Whether it's the lizard people, or whether it's the Illuminati, the Burgermeisters, and the list will go on of the people supposedly controlling the planet. I think now, with especially the younger generation, they have no loyalty to themselves or a government. And I think that's also going back to whether it's Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, or climate change. I think that's what's sparking a lot of this. They're challenging. Back in the day, people would challenge, but okay, we had some protests, we did this, we did that. Now, because everybody can be a star overnight, whether it's on YouTube or TikTok or this or that, right? People are challenging the norm. And I think because of that, we live in a different society. So, scientists are saying this climate. Go ahead.
The problem there, Steve, is that there are still a lot of people challenging this. You know, we have this whole thing in the UK about, stop oil. They have it here as well. But what's happened is that they're now changing the law because it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient that people are protesting. It was inconvenient when the suffragettes, well, one of them threw themselves under the King's horse at the Derby. That was bloody inconvenient for all those people who went there and watched the Derby.
Bravo.
But what it did was that it lit the fire or put more oomph into the fire for suffragettes, and then it eventually brought women's rights, which, if you look back, certainly in Europe, women didn't have equal rights until, some of them till the 1960s. So you can see how long that took. And now you have this thing like, if you are in the UK, if you are perceived to be preparing to demonstrate, it's an offence, and they can come and arrest you.
It's crazy.
Now, like I keep saying to everybody, save up all your money. Go and buy your brown shirt. You're going to need one pretty soon.
But Stephen, you remember last program we talked about there are so many zombies on this Earth globe we have. Why don't people think themselves that they are followers? Most of the people are followers. So do I believe. And to think yourself in a rational way, like our grandfathers did without TikTok or a billbox or whatever the were, it couldn't. Well, it happened. We are the Nazi regime, but if you go a bit further back, it would be very difficult to reach everyone, so I think it's a control mechanism that they want. And I say they, I say that the world leaders kind of want people to shut up and just do what they say.
Oh, no, I agree with you 1,000% with that. I think the world leaders would prefer that we didn't have iPhones. I don't think, especially in Russia, right, when they protest and people are getting beaten up and they're taking pictures, I don't think the world leaders want us to have phones in any respect. And a lot of people, to your point, they don't think because they don't read. Now in schools, they don't even teach history, right? It's like, we're going to teach you. So if you don't know about the past, and I'm a voracious reader, I like to read everything. So I like to at least have a knowledge of something and go, very cool. And then I can go down whatever rabbit hole with more books. But people don't do that, right? They're too busy on their 30 seconds of Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And the funny part about it is our average show, people watch 80 to 90% of a show that we do, any of the shows. That's very good. But most channels, they watch maybe 10, 15 minutes and they're done. This topic is boring. People just don't think. And that's the biggest problem, is that whether it's climate change, UFOs, whatever it might be, they just take it at face value. Now what's happening, all these kids are like, we're like anti-establishment, and that's good, but they don't think through it. They're just like, my friend said I should be anti-establishment, I'm anti-establishment, right? So you have to think through what it means. It's kind of like with our elections coming up, with what's going on in general. So when I read all the science on climate change, global warming, yes, I do think the planet's getting hotter, to the point that our planet's been here, if you will, 15, 16, 17 billion years. I'm assuming that we will die off like previous generations, and our lost history, as Graham Hancock talks about, is that we will die off and a new planet and civilization, so to speak, will come about, and they'll be having the same dialogue 3,000 years from now. And they'll be like, oh, there was something, or maybe 3 million years from now. They'll be like, we're it. And they'll be like, no, there was us before you, and before us, there was somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And I just think people don't think like that. They're just, they're brought up like, this is it, you're done. And people are like, oh, okay. And nobody says, but no, that's not true. Like I've said on many of our shows, and not this one because it's our second one, but I want to know where zero is. Like we're somewhere between zero and a number. I want to know zero. I want to go back to that day where it is, because you just can't be. There has to be something that made us, right? So the fact that we're here is fascinating to me. And I want to know how. I don't believe in the Big Bang. I don't believe in the string theory. None of it. And nobody has told me something that makes sense. So the Sumerian texts, to an extent, I'm fascinated by. But then I'm like, okay, so if those people help bring us here, because technically then we're the aliens living on this planet, how did they get into the creation? And then I'm assuming somebody created them, and somebody created. So I want to go back to zero. So when people say they want to go back to day one, I want to go back to the real day one, not our day one.
But unfortunately, you know, I have to agree with Morten, though, that I always jokingly say, you know, 80% of the planet are sheep. They're zombies.
Yeah, that's true.
And what was it? Was it Stalin who said that? I can't remember, but somebody from the Soviet Union, I think, made a quote like television is the opium of the people, and now of course it's the smartphone, because the irony of the smartphone, is that it makes us even more stupid, and it just continuously feeds this porridge of crap. And there's a generation of people who have a hunger, and this is being fed, but it's not fed by knowledge. It's fed by, you know, just regurgitated crap, which keeps coming back and coming back and coming back.
Right.
So and that plays into a lot of people's hands. Who are they? The lizard people, you know, the Illuminati, you know, the Freemasons, the people with pointy hats, the people with square hats, the people with you know, cone-shaped heads, whoever they are, you know, we're just playing into that hand, and that disturbs me. But having just had solar panels put on the roof, I don't really care anymore about global warming. I hope it's hot every day because I keep my electricity bill down. And I'll be dead anyway by then, by the time it gets like super hot.
Yeah, but that's David. That's a bit. You know, we have to. It's a bit selfish, isn't it?
Because, I am, but that 100% selfish. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what can I do? Can I change it? Can I change it? Do I have it? Do I have it within me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I've got a big head, but it'll have to be an enormous parapet for me to stick my head above it. You know, because, you know, who am I? All we can hope is that you know, people watching this show are a bit pissed off about my point of view, and he put lots of comments in underneath. Great, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's have a debate. At least that may solve
a
something.
Debate. Yes, at least because
at least a debate.
Very often it's this is it. Also in politics, this is it.
Yeah.
This is red and
take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Rather leave it, of course. But I will anyway. But Stephen, you're a wise man. We all are, but you're a bit wiser. I think so. I know. I don't know.
That's only because I've been around like 18 billion years. But go ahead. So,
yeah.
I'm a real. That's why it says one of the old farts. I'm a really old fart. So
but he's also one of the lizards. So don't forget.
I'm a lizard person. Yeah, they're my people. So.
Maybe you're from another planet. Who knows?
Oh, he most definitely is from another planet.
I always tell people I'm from Pluto, and you can't miss it. When we come visit here, you go to the third rock. Yeah, we're from Pluto. When you come in from the solar system, you make a left. You can't miss it. It's right there.
I just have a short question for you. How long is a rope?
Yeah,
as long as you want it to be.
I know the answer to that.
Right.
I know the answer to that. Yes.
Good, David.
It's twice as long from the middle to the end.
I like that. That's very good.
That's a good answer. Really.
That's an excellent answer, David.
Holy moly. But in the end of the day, why are we, you know, back to Shakespeare, back to everybody, you know, the great thinkers back in the world. what's the meaning of this life? Why are we here?
Right.
What are we going to do? What are we going to accomplish? I think the meaning of life is to be kind to yourself and thereby also to others. And
Agree.
that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any higher meaning, even if I'm bearing my grandfather's nice, it's my childhood old thing, and I have a direct communication with the one above. Maybe
Right.
it's not God, maybe it's room ship. I don't know. But the thing is, why don't we be more kind to each other? Why don't we just live right now and forget about
Right.
the future, to be
Well,
afraid of things?
We
I don't think
can if
anybody's
we live
afraid.
in we can if we live in groups smaller than 100.
Yeah. The problem is we have 8 billion people on the planet, and it
Once
really
you
is.
and then
It's a land
it's a
acquisition
land
game.
grab. It's a land grab.
Right. It's a land acquisition game now, right? Russia wants to bring back the old Russia from like the 1400s. China wants to bring back the old China from the 1500s. So it's like it becomes, instead of like, how can we better the planet, better the people, better this, better that? All it is hate, 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 hate. So going back to the, say, UFOs, I think that gives, whether they're real or not, I think that gives people a sense of, wow, maybe there's this civilization that's kind and nice and whatever. I think though, when we finally meet them, we're going to be sorely disappointed, because I think they are much smarter. And as Stephen Hawking said, they can literally wipe us out with a blink of an eye. But for me, I when I was a kid, I was very like, we got to save the planet. We have to do this. We have to do that. So then, of course, I became an investment banker, the oldest profession in the world. Because without us, that other profession means nothing.
Well, I had that same issue in the 1970s. You know, people kept saying to me, "Save a whale," and then we did save one, but it got so big we couldn't keep it in the bath anymore. So you know,
and then Orson Welles passed away.
It came to Norway, and I ate it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And that, you know, I mean, that's very controversial.
I know.
And what's really funny.
Do you guys still own the? Do you guys still own the Faroe Islands?
No.
It's Denmark.
It's Denmark, but Denmark doesn't want to have the Faroe Island any longer. So we talk about
because of all the whales.
No, because they don't make money on the island, you know.
Okay.
So
I will tell you something interesting. In the book I'm finishing called The Word, and we've talked about this book, up until about 10,000 or 1,000 CE, 1200 CE, Muslims, Jews, whatever make-believe religion you guys are, all were living harmoniously. And then all of a sudden, when religion became a business, is when we became, let's go all kill each other. Let's do this. Let's do it. Now, I'm not saying back in the Egyptian day when they were still doing land grabs, like you have more than this one and more than that one. But it's very interesting when religion became a thing, that the popes would be like, we have to go have a war, or a Muslim dictator is like, we need to go have a ruler, I should say, not a dictator. Let's go have a war. A Jewish would be like, go have a war. The Egyptians, let's go, because they wanted to acquire more. So inherently, it's been in our DNA to do land acquisition, but it really got bad after about 1,000 CE, because in the very beginning, everybody had to work together. Because if you didn't work together, you died. And so to your point, I think you're right. With 100, 200, 300 people, 500 people, the book is very interesting because it breaks it down like less than 1 million people. And every chapter is so many millions of people as things happen. And as we got more people, we became a more violent culture, but we also became a more technologically advanced culture. So it's this double-edged sword. And that's why I always go back to Nikola Tesla. Like if JP Morgan would have done the free energy that Tesla wanted to do, where would we be today? You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't probably have global warming. You'd have free electric. You'd have and now it's like, who can be a trillionaire? It's not like, how do I help my fellow man? It's like, now everybody's racing to be a trillionaire. And I'm like, okay, but like some of these guys, you have $100 billion. I think you have enough money. Like, Go do something with it. You don't need to build Bezos a yacht that's like 57 miles long. You know, like, hey, like maybe you should do something.
Which he even they suggested that he had to take down a bridge in Holland to get the thing out. It was so
and he
big.
did.
There's a big hoo-ha, big hoo-ha about that.
But just living is kind of a competition. It shouldn't be a competition. Come on.
Right.
If I've been wealthy, rich, I've been poor. Now I'm in the middle. I'm fine. Yeah. And I don't compete with a friend who now bought a new TV, 100 thumbs screen. I don't care. Good for you.
Yeah, but
I'm not in the competition. What is this competition?
Talking about competition, the crazy thing is, right, that the thing was here, save the planet, save electricity. We've got all this space on your roof. Put all these solar panels up. That's what everybody's been doing in Holland. And now they've said, please don't give us your electricity. Why? Well, because we can't deal with it.
Yeah, they can't.
And you think, well, why? Because the infrastructure is a one-way street.
Yeah.
So why everybody was busy making money selling solar panels, and everybody jumped on. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And now we put money back into the system, and they'd really not let us have our electricity for free.
Yeah. Well, here's what's really funny. This whole thing we're discussing, if this was on Joe Rogan, 50 million views. Because it's on us, we'll get 6,000 or 7,000, which is fine because we're building a nice audience. But it's things for people to think about, and people don't want to think. They don't want to be challenged. They're afraid. And I was a kid. I was always told you have to challenge and think. And just because someone tells you to go do it, that doesn't mean you go do it. You're like, well, why? There has to be a purpose. And I don't think as a society, people have a purpose anymore. The purpose now is to go and try to make money. But the kids now don't want to work, right? They want to work a 30-hour week. They want to go hiking. And it's that's like, okay. Fault. No, that's just getting parents didn't nothing. When I was raised, we had this dialogue the other night with somebody. Yeah. When I was raised, whether you're a white collar or blue collar person, you work your 100-hour work week and you give everything to the company. The companies now don't give a crap about the people. So the people don't give a crap about the companies, and they don't want to work a 100-hour work week. They want to work 30 to 40 hours. Good for France. And they're done. And you know what? I can't blame them.
Well, they work here quite low hours, and we also have the highest amount of people who work part-time.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
This is a direct result of people being well educated, because they say, well, why?
Yeah.
I've got a good
job.
I don't blame
them.
Got a good job. I know I can look after my own money, and so why would I go and prostitute myself for somebody who, like you say, basically doesn't give a shit about you? But
you guys probably done this before, but I'm talking to you. Yeah, you who is looking at us now. Why don't you write under this sending what you think?
Yeah,
because that's why we're here, isn't it?
Yep. We want the comments. We want to know what people think. We want to know.
We need the feedback. Yeah. We need the feedback. So the three of us don't. We need correction. Like we were kids. Okay, you're going the wrong street now. If you're going to the water, you have to go that way. If you're going to the mountain, you're going that way. When I was 4 years old, I didn't know where the mountain or I had to ask my father or my grandfather. But it's not that bad to ask people either, Why? We're in this world together, aren't we?
Well, we invite the guests.
I'm just an old fart, so
That's true. And we keep inviting guests on. So we'll see if the guests show up. Like I said, we invited a senator to talk about UFOs. We decided Coltree to talk about his book about UFOs. We have other co-hosts at other shows that want to come on. I think they'll be on the next show in a fortnight. And they'll be interesting. And if you are watching and you want to be a guest and you have a topic that you are, for lack of a better term, an expert on, that you would like to discuss with us, we would love to hear it.
To have a rant. We're happy to
Yeah,
come on and have a rant.
but remember, you can't rant like Fox News. There's no screaming and hollering. This is an intellectual dialogue where we speak like gentlemen. Because remember, manners maketh the gentleman. Don't ever forget.
Yeah. Well, I paid $100,000 to be on this show, so it's expensive, guys. It's very expensive. It's not for free.
And basically, as the name says, you know, no snobs, and no knobs.
And no knobs. There you go. And guys, unfortunately, as much as I love talking with you, I love the show. I love all our shows, but this is one of my favorite because it literally is being, if you will, at a chemist shop. For those people that don't know what a chemist shop is, that is a cigar store, but a chemist shop
in the U.S.
Right? But a chemist shop in a big, comfortable leather chair, talking with guys about whatever and having intellectual dialogue. And to me, there's nothing better. So I hope you enjoyed our show.
As they say in Dutch, it's just a lot of ouwe, which basically means talking like an old whore. But there you go. On that note.
That was a good ending.
Wow, that's a nice. I thought mine was like sentimental and nice, but yours is better. I think. I don't know.
Lots of ouwe. Yeah.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching or listening. If you're on the podcast, we will see you in a fortnight. Look it up for you people in America. I'm not explaining again what that is. And if you'd like to be a guest, please let us know. If you have comments below, also subscribe and like. That helps the channel out. And we thank you for listening and watching. And have a wonderful rest of your weekend because this will air Saturday morning. Bye, guys. Yeah. David, do you have the ending for us?